Hands off our hijabs. France's Muslim women are furious after the Senate passes a vote to ban the headscarf for minors. I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is France's hijab ban. Now, 10 years ago, France banned the niqab. That's the Muslim garment that covers basically everything except a woman's eyes. But now the government has taken legislative steps toward banning the hijab as well. Now, that's the Muslim headscarf that covers just the hair and chest. Earlier this year, the Senate voted in favor of a ban on girls under 18 from wearing the headscarf in public. It's part of an anti-separatism bill that the Macron government says aims to reinforce France's secular identity. But for many Muslims, it's simply a law against Islam. Now, the bill still needs approval from the National Assembly, but its passing in the Senate sent shockwaves across social media. The hashtag #HandsOffOurHijabs began trending, and several high-profile celebrities came out against the bill. Now, the French government says the proposed legislation isn't targeting Muslims, but is that really true? Well, to discuss that and more, I'm joined now from Abbeville, France, by Patricia Chagnon. She's the municipal councillor for the National Rally. That's the party formerly known as the National Front. From New York, we have Aisha Siddiqa, a racial justice and environmental activist. And completing our panel is Yasser Louati from Paris. He is the co-founder of the Justice and Liberties for All Committee and also the co-author of the European Islamophobia Report. Thanks all three so much for joining us. Greatly appreciated. Patricia, let me start with you. You are very clear that this ban is specific to France because of unique circumstances that exist in your country and have actually prompted the need for this legislation. So I'll let you start by telling us why this proposed ban actually protects minors, as you think.
Hello to everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me and talking about this very important subject, which I would first like to put in its context. France is a secular country, and in our country there is freedom of religion for all religions to be practiced. And this works because we decided as a country a long time ago, at the beginning of the 20th century, that religion was a private affair, just like any, opinions you might have, and is reserved to the private sphere. Now, in order not to get communities or different religions or different opinions to clash with each other in the public sphere, it was decided that religion should be strictly limited to the private sphere, where everybody is free to have their own religion. Now, what's happened over the past years, and this has been going on over the past 30 years, a very conservative Islam has been growing in France. And this conservative Islam has gone a pair with demands for wearing, as you said, Islamic clothing, for having halal food, for separate swimming times in swimming pools, for women refusing to see a male doctor, being looked after by a male doctor in a public hospital. And things have been growing and growing, and this very conservative Islam has actually been taking over from the very moderate Islam which France used to know before 30 years ago, and which was completely integrated into the French Republican way of thinking. Now, because this has changed, and because, as you all know, radical Islam has taken over in certain suburbs where it's become impossible for a person like myself, but also for a Muslim woman who is not covered, to go into the public space, it is time now to legislate and to make sure that we hold to very conservative radical Islam. I do not need to remind you of the recent terrorist attacks, or the recent and the less recent terrorist attacks on our country, in our country, and on my compatriots, which has compelled us to take a firm stance in saying, yes, Islam can be and Muslims are part of our country. This is absolutely unquestionably so. But radical Islam, conservative Islam, does not have its place in France. We are a country of Brigitte Bardot. We are a country where men and women live together, where women are not seen as sexual objects, but our men are culturally know how to deal with women, respect them, don't immediately have sexual pulsions when they see us. And women in France do not go covered. So again, I'm saying hijab in France, no, we are not an Islamic country, but in any other country, in an Islamic country, feel free, or in any other country, women should feel free to wear hijab if they chose so. I'm only talking about my own country, which is France.
Okay. Yasser, I know France is your own country too, and I saw you laughing at some of the things that Patricia was saying. Why so?
Honestly, I mean, like, I have no idea where this person is coming from and where she learned French law. First, laïcité applies to the state and agents of the state, not public space. There has been attempts to redefine what laïcité means, but if this woman says you have the right of religion, but only in the private space, it's like me telling you, you have freedom of speech, but only at home. You have freedom of opinions, but only at home. Now she went on saying that this is not targeting Islam and Muslims. So first, Muslims have not waited for Mrs. Patricia to define what it means to be a conservative Muslim or not. Second, when you have freedom of religion enshrined in the French Constitution, the Declaration of Human Rights of 1789, the European Convention on Human Rights, that you have the right to believe and not to believe, and when the government tells people what kind of Muslim they can be and what they cannot be, they are literally seeing a redefinition of what laïcité means. And right now, what we just heard is sheer ignorance. I'm sorry to say it, Mrs. Patricia, you are an elected official, but you seem to forget that the French Constitution, Article number 1, the Republic ensures equality before the law of all citizens without distinction of origin, race, or religion. Are you going to ask Catholic nuns to remove their headscarves? Are you going to ask Jewish women to remove their wigs when they cover their hair, or Jewish rabbis to remove their kippas? What is at stake right now is the very definition of what a liberal democracy is. Can people believe without fearing the government cracking down on their religious freedom? The second point, as for the right of women to be free, exactly what is the difference between what we just heard and the Taliban in Afghanistan making women wear a headscarf or a burqa? It is the same thing. You keep telling women what they can be and cannot be, and when Muslim women tell you, this is my body, I decide to wear a headscarf and I am not imposing my choice onto others, they are told no. That is radical Islam, and unfortunately, radical Islam is not practicing Islam as French people do.
Okay. Patricia, I'm going to let you respond, but Yasser, I think we have to note as well that this legislation strictly addresses minors. And Patricia, go ahead, respond to what you heard Yasser just say, and also explain better why you think this protects women or girls under the age of 18.
Thank you so much for giving back the microphone to me. Yes, it's very important to react to this particularly aggressive attitude of Mr. Laouti. It is very important to say again that radical Islam has taken over in many neighborhoods in France, and in many areas, women can no longer walk without headscarves. I see it in the town where I'm elected. We have a very conservative Muslim association which promotes art classes and music classes for children, little girls, and promotes the covering up of tiny little girls. Now, I find it important that we have a law against this, because in France, women should not be pressured as young children, as young girls, to be wearing a religious type of outfit. When you choose to live in France, when you choose to make republic, as we say in France, you also have to realize that there are some things that you have to adhere to, and that is the total equality between men and women, and that is the total liberty of women to be themselves and not be pressured into wearing religious type of garments. So it is very important that we protect the under 18-year-old young girls from being pressured into this. And if it were up to me, of course, I would forbid wearing niqab, hijab in the whole of society, because we are in France. And again, I respect Mr. Laouti's points of view, which are maybe perfectly adapted to an Islamic state, but the type of democracy that we've chosen
is racist.
France,
No, I stop you right there. That is straight racist. No, stop. No, I'm in my country. No.
Can I please?
This is, I stop it right here.
I know you
She
despise
apologizes or I
women,
leave.
but I would like
This is
to
my
continue.
country. Madam,
Yes.
you apologize. Madam, you apologize. I am French as much as you are. Don't send me back to a foreign country. You either apologize or we stop it right there.
I will continue my.
Madam, I'm
what I
French.
was saying.
Don't send me to an Islamic country. Who told you I'm Muslim, by the way?
You just said so yourself. That's what I look when you look on
I
your
did not say I'm
website.
Muslim. Who told you? Who said I am?
Excuse me.
I never said I'm Muslim.
Anyway,
Madam,
it's so difficult
Madam, no.
to let a woman talk.
I did not
This is
say
exactly-
I am Muslim. So you sent me back
I
to a
think
foreign
this is
country,
exactly
and that
the
is
example.
blatantly racist. I'm sorry.
I
Okay.
am not racist. I'm not racist, sir. Don't get it wrong. My words may be a little bit
yes, you
difficult
are.
for you to accept. No, I'm a European woman who would like
You are a
to.
racist woman. You
I'm
just sent me to a foreign country. I'm sorry, madam. That is racist.
I said
Sorry,
niqab
you are
and
racist.
hijab. I said clearly hijab.
You sent
and
me back to a
niqab.
foreign country.
Okay.
Madam,
I think we're
sorry, madam.
venturing
I
into
humbly disagree.
the territory of a separate debate here, actually. Yasser, as you know, sometimes there are people in France who do feel, Patricia, I'm not saying that's the case with you, but there are people in France who do feel that French-born citizens that may have come from a different background don't actually belong. But please, before we get into that territory.
Just a minute. I'm not born in France,
No,
okay?
okay.
I'm not born in France.
Fair enough.
I'm not born.
But
no,
before-
no. I was
Before we venture
And I
too
don't
far
care.
outside of this debate, I really need to bring Aisha in, because you are a young Muslim woman who was once a girl under 18 that has freely chosen to wear the hijab. When you hear that this proposed law is in the interest of protecting minors from essentially extremist elements, as Patricia thinks exist in her country, that might force it upon girls under 18, in order to protect them, do you accept that that could be an issue in France?
I think this argument is actually far nuanced than we're making it. I don't think it's as simple as it being Islamophobic, because obviously it's Islamophobic. In order for it to work, it has to be Islamophobic. Basic statistics tells us that if you take a variety of variables and variety set of data, and you look at the thing that is occurring in all of them, and you choose that thing and you target it, then all of that data is targeted. So I'm not going to look anywhere aside from France's history to prove my point, because this ban is more than just Islamophobic, it's sexist, and it's rooted in France's long history of white supremacy.
Aisha, let me ask you this specifically, though. I really do have to. If you were, if you can put yourself in this place, if you were, for example, forced by your family to wear a hijab to school and in public spaces, and you didn't want to, would you want the law to step in and protect your freedom of choice as a minor in that case?
Well, that's not freedom of choice, is it? I have two issues in this scenario. I have parents forcing me, and then I have the state saying no. Who gets stuck in this process? The Muslim woman. And France is no different than those countries that Patricia is trying to say that France is not like in this scenario. Because I think at one point previously she mentioned that she would appreciate the complete banment of all religious headscarves. How is this different from Iran or Afghanistan forcing women to wear headscarves? Who is valued in this sort of narrative? It's the male gaze, right? If it's in both scenarios, Muslim women are sexualized because in one extreme ideology, if Muslim women don't cover, men cannot hold their sexual desires to themselves. Then they make the compromise.
That's the total
Then
difference
on the
with
other side,
with French
it's
men.
desirability
We
politics.
have men that have
Because
been
if
educated. No,
would you let me
in our
finish? I let you
culture.
go, Patricia.
No, I really
This is
got to
my
react to
time.
this.
Okay, let
I'm not
Aisha
being
finish quickly,
Please
Patricia, and
let
then
me
I'll come to
finish.
you.
Yes,
I'm not
yes,
targeting you. I'm talking from historical
yes.
and very objective points. Furthermore, so when you are forcing girls not to cover up, what essentially you're talking about is desirability politics. Angela Davis, Audre Lorde, all of feminist authors tell us that when the white man's idea of what is beauty is prioritized, when the white man's idea of what is human is prioritized, then everybody under the white man is not considered human.
Okay. Aisha, we just have a minute left, and I really need to wrap it up. Patricia, I'll let you respond, but I need to ask you this question as well. Are you concerned at all that such legislative action like what you are trying to take actually antagonizes and perhaps escalates unintended reactions? It actually inspires more of the extremism that you feel is already in France. Does that worry you at all?
It worries me that the issue is being instrumentalized by such discussions that I hear around myself. The whole idea of banning this is to protect the secular society in which we live. Hey, listen, when I go on holidays in an Islamic country, I cover up and I respect it. And I think that if you choose to live in France, you have to adapt to the ways and the culture of the French people. Now, we don't, and I really need to insist on that. We French women, we don't feel that we're sexual objects because we don't go uncovered. The French male doesn't see a woman as a sexual object. He respects her. He talks to her. We are the country of poetry, of gallantry, of romanticism. So let's not change that. Let's not change that. We have been living like this for a long time. It took us 2 centuries after the French Revolution to make sure that the Catholic Church stopped having a grip on our society. That's not today to let
funny because
Islam
the Catholic Church went to Algeria, Tunisia, and Mali and then put their grip on other societies, mostly Muslim societies. So if you want to talk about France not being a secular nation, then look at French history. 1965, the law was passed, and then for 60 years, France did not leave Algeria.
Aisha and Patricia, I'm going to have to interrupt you both. So unfortunately, we are out of time for this segment of the Newsmakers. I'm going to have to cut you off and interrupt, and my apologies because this was such a fascinating debate. I'd like to thank all 3 of my panelists so much for joining us. Really, we'll continue this, I'm sure, again at some other point very soon in the future. Thank you.